Our first sort of large community. We are Raleigh founded. We are an entrepreneurial co-working community located in the heart of downtown Raleigh. We support entrepreneurs and small businesses to help them not only have the physical space they need to grow and succeed, but also connect them to resources, networks, and those kinds of things. So if you are new to the community, welcome. It's free to plug into events like this. It's free to connect with myself and staff members and some of our resource providers are happy to chat with you. And we hope you continue to come back. If you're members, thank you for coming and supporting, or partners. Couple of housekeeping things. There are restrooms. There is one right behind you where there's also an emergency exit, and where the other exit is as well. There's a second restroom if you need it, as well as some on the lower floors as well. We are operating by the state mask mandate. And so when you're not actively eating and drinking, we just ask that you wear a mask. If you forgot your mask today, no stress. We have masks available at the countertop. So unless you're eating, drinking, or actively speaking, such as our panelists, we ask that you wear that at all times. And other than that, we just want you to listen in and have fun. And I'll pass it over to Jason, who can introduce himself and our panelists. We're really excited to have Earfluent, Jason and Earfluence, as partners. We do have a new, really cool podcast studio in our Raleigh-founded space, and Jason can tell you more about it. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoy the event.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everybody, for attending this. I'm so excited for this live in-person event. What is this? So many people here. This is great. And thank you for everybody who's listening in on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. So Devin is going to be producing this show. And if you have any questions for the investors or for the founders, shoot them in the comments or raise your hand at the end of the show if you're in the live studio audience here, and we'll get to some of these questions. But here's what's going to happen. So we've got two investors here today. We've got Tim McLaughlin and Keith Daniel. I'll introduce them in just a second. We've got 5 founders pitching to them. Maybe the investors will be kind of interested in what they have to say. Maybe they won't. Maybe investors who are listening in will be interested. Maybe they won't, but it'll be a good pitch practice. And I'm so excited to hear from these 5 founders because they are just, having looked at their companies, they are just superstars. So I'm very excited for that. So who are the investors? First, Keith Daniel is co-founder and partner at Resilient Ventures here in the Triangle. Resilience thesis is early stage with revenue, scalable companies led by African-American founders in a variety of sectors. This is their first fund that they're working on now and have invested about $1.5 million into 8 companies. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
All right, second, we have Tim McLaughlin, who's a partner at Co-Founders Capital, one of the most active and largest seed funds in the Southeast. Between funds 1 and 2, Co-Founders has raised over $45 million to invest in startups. And based on their track record, I would, maybe there's a fund 3 coming along soon. We'll see. But Tim also serves as on the board of many early stage companies and is host of the First Check podcast, which educates prospective investors on how to vet opportunities and get ready to write their first check. Welcome, Tim.
Who produces that podcast?
So that podcast, what a plug. This guy, yeah. What a plug. So this podcast is produced by Earfluence. And like Jess was saying, we are at the Warehouse building. We have a podcast studio there, open for Raleigh-founded members, open for Earfluence clients, and open to the general public too, if you're interested in podcasting, which you should be. All right. So are you guys ready?
We're ready.
All right. Let's get to our first pitch in person. What a concept. Our first founder is Janine Fry from Vertebra. Janine, if you want to come on up. I will let her explain more, but Janine has a company that has a technology to relieve your back pain. All right, let's hear all about it.
Did you know that 4 in 5 women experience back pain at some point in their life? The average American cup size is a double D. As breast size increases, so does the weight of force on the spine. So it's easy to see why 50% of women size double D and larger report constant back pain. Similarly, about 80% of women experience back pain due to their body's response during pregnancy. We know women can't always find the time, money, or support to seek treatment. So we've designed a simple product to help manage back pain and support good posture. Vertebra is a posture tracking bra that promotes positive muscle memory with a smartphone app, sensor technology, and vibrational feedback. Vertebra provides accurate results while looking and feeling just like a sports bra. By using Vertebra, 90% of healthcare costs due to seeking treatment at physical therapists or chiropractors can be saved. It's time to take back health seriously with Vertebra. And then I would like to thank you all for your time. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Sure. So with any sort of products like this, the first question that goes through in my head is, does it work? How do you know it works? Or if you don't know yet, when will you know that it works? So maybe just fill us in on where you're at with that.
So we have been working with a technologist. The technology that we're using allows printing of conductive inks onto fibers. And so we are in the lab testing to make sure that it does do what we want it to do. And we have in the works, we are planning on creating several prototypes to test with women of different chest size and different situations, just to get feedback on it.
So Janine, tell me, why are you the right person to lead this? I hear back commercials all the time for all kind of this highly competitive space to address, prevention of pain and so forth. But why you? What's your story in this? And what role do you play?
So I'm CEO and lead designer of the project. The concept was my idea, but I've had a lot of support along the way. I definitely would not be here right now without all the support that I've had from my other team members. But this is my dream product, pretty much. I have experienced back pain throughout my life. Right now, I have it managed for the most part. Occasionally, I find myself doing weird things and getting stuck in weird positions that I don't totally notice until all of a sudden I'm in pain. But I've spent a decent amount of time in a chiropractor's office, spent a decent amount of time at yoga classes to build the muscles. And I think that we could be more knowledgeable about it. And I think that I know it causes a lot of problems that are deeper than just back pain. Like, you get less oxygen to your lungs when you're not standing up properly. And it just affects everything that goes on in your body.
Janine, how do you see yourself monetizing this? Is this a direct to consumer? Is there a channel play that you can go through? What's the vision?
So we've discussed direct to consumer, and we've also discussed potential collaboration opportunities with like sportswear brands that already have the outreach that can help us get there. I think it's really going to depend on. Personally, I have a lot of expectations about creating a product that is not only helpful for women, but is also conscious of the development and the impact that it has on like the environment and the workers who are producing it. And so it's like, if we can find a collaborator who is willing to live up to those expectations, I would love that opportunity. But at the same time, I think that we can do a direct to consumer if need be, so that I don't have to make those compromises.
Keith, do you mind if I just follow on to that real quick? So do you see this being like a one-time purchase from a consumer for the product, or is there an ongoing subscription for you? You had mentioned an app. Do you know what that monetization strategy looks like?
Well, we assume that it will be more than one bra purchase.
Okay.
And there will be, we would like to, the application will have like tips and feedbacks and resources about how to build positive muscle memory. And so I think that there are opportunities of collaboration with that as well.
Okay.
How do you see your product within the scope of the market, scalability, exiting? Have you thought, about that wonderful day?
Yeah. So like I said, we would love to find collaborators of people who are already in the market. And I do see this as something that has more opportunity. It's not just a bra, like men's underwear, things like that. And after talking with chiropractors, every chiropractor we talked to is really excited about it. So, and that was another thing that I didn't even mention, collaborating with chiropractors' offices to make sales and things like that. We've also talked about the possibility of like the health savings accounts and using insurance for the product. So there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a couple different directions to go with it. But I think it's going to depend on what needs to be the specifics of the production process, because it's different than just a bra production process.
So I think just as some feedback, I think clearly figuring out the cost to get to the next inflection point in the business and what that is, whether it's getting your first commercial product, a little validation, some feedback from some customers that are wearing it, whatever that next inflection point of your business is, have that clearly defined, maybe know the timeline, amount of capital. I'm sure you know a lot of this stuff, but articulate the capital amount of time that you're going to need to hit that inflection point, and then what that's going to allow you to do. And especially with a product like this, where there's health involved and reimbursement and who else knows what could come down the line, breaking that up into those clear inflection points while still telling the big picture, which is what I think you did today, I think is really important. So
Thank you.
yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Janine. All right. Our next presenter is Nicole Lowe, CEO of Zoe, which recently rebranded from Soul Life. Now, Zoe is a platform to help coaches grow and manage their businesses. Nicole?
Great. Thank you. Okay. So we are all familiar with service marketplaces like DoorDash and Lyft, and I'm sure you're all familiar with coaching. You may have used a coach to help you with your business, your career, and a lot of people use coaches to help their children get through school and various different life things. Coaching is actually the second fastest growing profession in the world across 30 different disciplines. I'm Nicole Lowe, founder and CEO of Zoe, the first cloud-based national client coach matching marketplace, along with streamlined workflow solutions. Zoe offers access to a rich pool of vetted coaches and matching algorithms to help you assess the best coach to connect with at a low personal cost. 21% of American independent businesses identify themselves as a coach or consultant. These businesses lack a platform to do client sourcing at a national level. These businesses are also using back offices and client management processes that are hacky and strung together with generic software and physical pen and paper. Zoe solves this problem with a single source solution to help these businesses grow. With the pandemic, coaching has grown tremendously. And what also has grown is the willingness to use technology to connect in ways that we used to connect in person. These two things, along with a marketplace of billions of dollars that is growing, makes this marketplace the perfect investment opportunity for right now. Thank you, and I'll take that back to Tim.
Nice, Nicole. Good job. So one of the challenges we see when you're trying to grow a marketplace is which side do you grow first? who do you focus your attention on? All you have as a founder is your time. And so how do you look at which side, the coaches or the consumers, right? The patients, whatever you want to call them. Which side do you grow first? And how do you think those two need to scale together over
Sure.
time?
Thank you for that. A great question. Thank you, Tim. So one thing to distinguish is that we're not just a marketplace. There's also a software component to this. So what we've started with is the number one problem for coaches, and that is that they lack the back office support to be able to grow and scale their businesses. So we've launched a SaaS platform for coaches to be able to streamline their business and be more efficient and grow occupancy and make more profits. These coaches are bringing on average between 75 and 100 paying clients that are coming into our platform. So once we grow that ecosystem, then we will grow that from there through referral programs, ambassador programs, and whatnot.
Great, thanks.
So you already in operation? What stage, of development is the company? And as Tim, picking up on Tim's question with respect to, just how is money made on your side of it?
Yes, great questions. I'll answer both questions.
Okay.
I'm happy to say that we just got to revenue a few weeks ago. So yes, it's been a grind, as you all know.
It's a big deal.
Yes. So we have 27 paying coaches. We have over 100 clients. Billable transactions that are happening on the site. We're still testing through our alpha beta process. How we make money is two ways. We make money on the SaaS platform with a monthly annual subscription fee. And then we also have a take back rate on existing business doing transactions and a little bit larger take back rate for the marketplace when we bring new leads to the coaches.
Got it. So it's not a deterrent for the coaches to bring their own people onto the platform. Got it.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. You're right at this intersection of two of the hottest markets that are out there. You got, the mental health kind of aspect of this business, and you have the telehealth, right? And the two are merging into being one of the where a lot of VC dollars are flowing. How concisely do you differentiate what you're doing from what a lot of the solutions are on the market? And by concisely, what I mean is in a quick marketing message or in a elevator pitch, even a half an elevator pitch to a potential customer.
Yeah. Two things there I want to hit on with therapy. Therapists in that world is confined to state regulations and state licensing. Coaching can, in fact, be national. So that's a big distinction in how we can reach clients on a national basis. We plan to curate a lot of content with our coaches to be able to educate the marketplace. The marketplace is maturing, and I'd say that the marketplace is pretty familiar now with coaches helping you with their business and helping you with their career. Our elevator pitch to the coaches is that, we can in fact be part of your everyday life. A therapist, you might have to go on a 6-month waiting list. You might have to wait for insurance approvals, but coaches, you can have instant access in that moment of that emotional need.
Got it.
What is the competition like for you? And have you thought about cultural implications around coaching? Your coaching client base, is it diverse? That sort of thing.
Absolutely. The first thing is, so we all have competition, right? The thing about Zoe is that we are going into the small, medium-sized business marketplace and the consumer marketplace, which has a lot of little tiny competitors that are trying to solve scheduling or they're trying to solve billing, but no one leader has raised up in the 73% of the marketplace to be a strong leader. Our biggest competitor is BetterUp. And BetterUp, if you know BetterUp, they just raised $175 million, and their recent valuation is $17.5 billion. So the distinction between them and us is I believe that they built a platform based on enterprise and baby boomers and kind of long assessments and long processes, which is great. We are going after the 73% of the marketplace, which are all these small to mid-sized businesses and independent individuals out there that are looking for an instant, connection to a coach. Diversity, absolutely. We adhere to the highest, strictest vetting process to bring our coaches over the fence, so to speak. We adhere to International Coach Federation vetting process, and once they get over, we have a code of conduct that they will adhere to. Diversity is very important. I mentioned the 30 different disciplines. Very important to us to get a very diverse group of coaches into our tribe.
If you have to track over the next 12 months, what your key metrics are to show that this works.
Yeah.
What are the 2 or 3 metrics that you're tracking?
Sure. So right now, we are experiencing 100% conversion rate from every single demo to sign up.
That's a good one.
Now, clearly, we
Yeah.
need to automate that, but we have 100% conversion rate. We also are tracking referral. So every coach that gets a demo from us, they're referring an additional 4 coaches. So we're tracking referral, we're tracking conversion rates, and we're also tracking what they're gravitating towards on the platform. A lot of coaches are really engaging in the note management system. They're engaging in the automatic billing, so we're tracking that. In terms of the inflection points, Tim, we've got 1,600 coaches in our network, and we're growing. Our wait list is growing because we're still in testing. So we're tracking that, and we're also tracking the conversions, but we also need to hit, we want to hit 300 coaches, paying coaches by the end of the year. And that is going to be a significant traction point that we want to have conversations with our investors about.
Great. So I just some feedback here at the end. So first of all, building the marketplace. Well, I know it's more than a marketplace, but you're doing the right thing, which is providing solutions to one specific side, where even without the people coming in from the other side, those connections, you're still providing a ton of value. So you have back office solutions and tools for the coaches, which makes this something you can sell, even if you don't have thousands of folks waiting for their services on the other side. And then another thing that you said, which is always the best value prop, is you can help them drive revenue. You can help them become more profitable. And so we have this back office solution for you, I think is a great way to go at the market, and to say that you can make them more money certainly helps collapse that sales cycle. So here's to getting to 300 by the end of the year. Good luck.
Yes, thank you,
All right.
Tim.
Yep.
Got 2 referrals.
Thank you, Nicole. Nicole, are you allowed to share where your next pitch event is?
Venture Atlanta.
Oh, all right. There you go.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Our next founder is Leon Edelman. Leon, you want to come up here? Leon is from Ivy Clinicians, an innovative market network for physician assistant, nurse practitioner, and physician jobs. So I'm excited to hear about it. Welcome, Leon.
Keith, Tim, Keith, I do have to apologize for being a Carolina guy with your Duke pedigree, but I'll forgive you. I'll forgive you for that.
You see how I brought some love for you today.
Bringing it together. So, and I want to invest in Zoe.
Okay, great.
So I'm Leon Edelman with Ivy Clinicians. So did you know that there is no simple way for physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants to find better, higher paying jobs? And there's no simple way for healthcare employers to find interested clinicians. Ivy Clinicians is an innovative market network for clinician jobs. We are the Incredible Health, Nomad Health, and Hired.com of the clinician job market. I founded Ivy along with Matt Simpson, who couldn't be here today. He's an NC State valedictorian, so bring it all together. And was a co-founder of FreshSpire. I'm a Harvard-trained emergency physician and have been medical director of 2 large community emergency departments. So I've experienced the problems with the job market, both as the hirer and as a physician looking for jobs. We're currently developing the site and expecting to launch publicly at the end of this year. We've raised so far $260,000 in a pre-seed round, all from physicians who know the market. So the pandemic really has shown just how important the clinician job market is to the health and prosperity of this country. And with that, I'd love to answer some questions.
All right. Good job. So we're a little familiar with this problem. We had a company we invested in that was in not healthcare specific, but on hiring, right? And referral hiring and all that. We also have another company called FeedTrail, which is here in Raleigh, which focuses on patient satisfaction, but also employee satisfaction within physician practices. And so you see that there's a lot of turnover and a lot of expected turnover with the stress in the healthcare world. So you have more folks that are going to be looking to hire. We've also seen a lot of pitches in and around the space that you're in. So, which is hire me in the healthcare specific vertical. So what I look at is there's a real problem that's been identified.
Correct.
So Keith has asked the question before, so I'll ask it. Why your technology? You talked a little bit about why you and the background you have, but why is your technology going to win out in this space when you go to market?
Yeah, good question. So we have an innovation stack that fits the needs both on the clinician side and the employer side. On the clinician side, one thing that is not yet used out there is that our credentialing information is public. And so we are going to be able to import all the credentialing information and make that validated, and also makes it super easy for a clinician to create their profile. So you'll be able to create a profile within 2 minutes of showing up. The other thing that we'll have that nobody else has is a list of, or a database of all within a specialty, the hospital or health system, and then the employer, because 80% of clinicians are employed outside of the health system. So connecting the health system with the employer, with their in-house recruiter, and then we're going to be able to bring those two sides together. There are other features to bring on the clinicians that we have. One is what we're calling the Clinician Genome Project. And what that's going to do is, because this information is public and there are APIs to pull this together, we're going to be able to connect in-tribe clinicians. So alumni from medical school, from residency to current jobs, so that people can figure out, clinicians can figure out where their in-tribe folks work. But also, and I guess one more thing, I know you've got lots of questions. One more thing that we're gonna do is have pricing information. Right now, almost no job site requires both sides to say how much they want to either be hired for, or what the pay is going to be. And so we're going to have price discovery as part of our site.
Yeah, one of our portfolio companies I'm particularly grateful to be a part of is called Livewell Assisted Living. We've been having this conversation about employees, retention and actually acquiring employees. So help define again, you have clinicians, you have like physical therapists. Are you also caregivers all the way down, to the early entry caregivers? And then there's a lot of training and certification. Are you doing anything to support the employee population in terms of professional development, or are you just strictly the immediate hiring process?
Yeah, good question. So there are really good market networks for the nursing space, and there are some others, including one out of the Triangle on nursing assistants and some other healthcare workers. What's missing in the market is actually the top of the market. So there's nothing for physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners. That's what we're going to focus on first. And the next group that we would go after would be veterinarians, podiatrists, and dentists, because they have the same problems, really same background, same needs.
Nice.
I'm going to package two questions into one here, just because so I don't forget them.
Yeah.
So first one is, who at the healthcare system or the physician level, who's making the decision? Who's your buyer that's deciding whether to work with you? And then give me a use case of, let's just call it a PA, right?
Mm-hmm.
That gets a job at that customer.
Correct.
How money flows through to you.
Right. So one of the reasons I think others have not gone down this path is collecting the money, right? So the ideal is to have Airbnb or Uber style. You give me the money, and then I give the other side of the market the money, and we control the flow of money. We can't do that because the contract will be between the clinician and their employer. the reason that we're going to be able, with our excellent lawyers' help, with that, we're going to be able to collect is that hospital credentialing is public information. And so we know who connected on our site, and then we will run a monthly report for whether that person now is employed at a certain practice or health system, and then we will hold them accountable if they try to go around us.
All right, so you're charging on the back end for the number of hires that you.
Correct.
They heard that
So
right? Okay.
One of the problems with job boards is that they charge on the front end, which makes groups not want,
Yeah.
they do everything they can to not get onto the board because they have to pay. So everything is free for us until value creation. And then we're going to charge 4.5% of up to 1 year's salary once a contract is signed.
And the decision maker title at the healthcare system, or
Yes, that's the other piece of the puzzle that makes it a little bit difficult to get into this market. The employer is the practice. It's not necessarily the hospital. So my previous employer was Wake Emergency Physicians, WEPA, and you can't Google your way to that. I was medical director at Johnson Health. You can't Google back to me having my paychecks being from WEPA.
got it.
Yeah, well, Durham being the city of medicine, we actually invested in one medical company out of Detroit. Appreciate any solution to help our medical field. So kudos to you. And your background obviously indicates you're pretty well acquainted with the space. It sounds like you have some challenges, as you just described, in getting to that buyer. So however you can hustle and flow to get to that, we encourage you to focus on that, because one of the questions we often ask is how long it's going to take you to get to a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, but yeah, I'm excited to learn about your solution.
Can I throw myself a question that,
Okay.
that I wish you so I want to answer the question about diversity. So
Appreciate it.
one of the sad parts of our market and a lot of markets is paid discrimination. Even nurse practitioners, female nurse practitioners, so 80% of nurse practitioners are female. Female nurse practitioners make 12% less than male nurse practitioners. It's crazy. And one of the best ways to combat wage discrimination is wage transparency. And I had a conversation with an African-American physician friend from medical school who was being paid $40 an hour less than his white colleague doing the exact same thing.
Wow.
And until there was transparency, he wasn't able to do anything about it, and then he quit the next day.
Yeah.
So we are bringing wage transparency to the market.
Man, well, I tip my hat to you in that regard. When you mentioned about that differentiated with your company with respect to that transparency piece, that did stick out to me. So again, as an investor that really is concerned about the values of the company, you pinpointing that is very much appreciated.
Great.
Yeah, that's good. Great. I'm good.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
Leon.
Leon. All right, thank you, Leon. We're going to stick with the medical space here and bring up Stacy McIntyre from Couplet Care, which is building an innovative.
Hey, man.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Which is
Thank you
building
very
an
much.
innovative infant hospital bassinet design, and recently won a grant from NC IDEA. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today to tell you about Couplet Care, and thank you for your time and attention. So Couplet Care is a class 2 510K exempt medical device, and we've created a baby bassinet for postnatal units. And the reason why this is so critical is that there is now a new global standard on postnatal units called rooming in. And so internationally, it means that infants should be in the same room with their parent. And there are lots of health benefits for this. It promotes breastfeeding, it promotes bonding, it decreases distress for the parent and the infant. But the problem is that the old style bassinets are now being used for this purpose, and they were never intended to be used for this purpose. So they were designed for nurses to take care of newborns standing up in a nursery and push. Everyone's seen an infant being pushed down to the nursery by a nurse. So these bassinets are now being repurposed, and it's creating a lot of distress for the new parent. So this means that the bassinet's too tall for a hospital bed. A new parent has to twist and turn and try and lift the infant out of these bassinets. And it's creating lots of pain for a new mom. Imagine a new mom who's just had a C-section can't really do this. Lots of you are nodding. Maybe you've had this experience. But it's also creating infant drops. And so the Journal of American Academy of Pediatrics has reported approximately 1,600 infant drops a year. I think that's severely underreported. And it also means that it's on the rise because rooming in is becoming the new standard, and they're doing away with nurseries. So we have a founder, Dr. Kristen Tully, who is a researcher out of UNC, and she noticed this problem pretty significantly when she was doing observational research. So between 2018 and 2020, she coordinated with NC State and Trig Innovation and created 3 prototypes of a new bassinet that could solve this problem in a way that allows a mom to access the infant on her own without a second person in the room. And this really decreases risks to patients, the mom and the infant, and it also increases efficiency among nursing staff and productivity. Nurses are, with a new device such as this, nurses would not have to be in the room in order to move a baby from the mom's bed to the bassinet. And so there's a Joint Commission standard that requires nurses to round every hour just to notice if a parent is drowsy and put a baby back into the bassinet. And so the nurses are in the room for non-medical reasons. We've had lots of interest from high-profile hospitals like Hopkins, Yale, most recently Mayo, locally UNC, and Wake. And we have completed our SBR Phase 2 study. We've applied for our SBR Phase 1. We're an NC IDEA grant recipient, and we've raised money from Loud Capital, who is our lead investor at this point. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, that's great, and thanks. I always look for opportunities to talk about my kids. So I got a 4-year-old and 1-year-old, and I don't know how my wife would have been able to handle that situation, like turning, there was someone else in the room that could always get the baby and hand it to her. And so I don't know how she would have handled that on her own without constantly calling a nurse in. And the other thing, I think during these times we're in, they want to reduce the amount of traffic in and out of the room, amount of time spent by nurses in the room. If they can, having a COVID baby, I was experienced that. So take me through the sales process into these large hospital systems. They make a decision, they want to make a change. Is there a pilot that happens? And then is there a mass purchase? Is there a rollout? Talk to us about the kind of sales process into the hospital systems.
Certainly. So we've already done market research with over 3,500 new moms and healthcare workers. And through that process, there's pretty high visibility about couplet care bassinet already, which is how some of the high profile hospitals know about what we're doing. We've coordinated with healthcare purchasers, and most hospitals are anticipating changing out their entire fleet of bassinets. So for some hospitals, it might be 25, others 125. So there's a new Joint Commission standard that requires that hospitals have bassinets with no wood on them. And that's an infection control issue. And so what that means is that any hospital who's approaching a Joint Commission reaccreditation is going to have to change out their bassinets. So we are racing against time to get our product out into the market. We anticipate product in the market in August of next year, and we're already established to take orders, purchase orders now, as we anticipate that rollout.
That's great.
You mentioned you have a founder, a physician. What is your role? What is your team composition like in terms of advisors or influencers?
Sure. So I'm Stacy McIntyre. I'm the CEO. They brought me in to commercialize this device after they had done all the market research and the prototype development. My background is I'm an entrepreneur, and I built a healthcare system into 3 states, 6 sites, and our healthcare system merged. So I was available to help this effort. So our other 2 co-founders are Don Holsworth and Jan Davis. They're both Blackstone entrepreneurs, executive residents at the Gilling School of Public Health, and both savvy entrepreneurs. And then our final board member is Marshall Karimsky, who's one of the members on Emerge Ortho's team, one of the surgeons there, who's also part of Loud Capital.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you got strategic investors and a great team. So anytime there's regulations and changes in the market, that means opportunity, right? People have to abide by the new regulations. But along with that, I'm sure comes competition. There are other people that have identified this, maybe some folks with nationwide sales teams, right, that are looking into it. So talk to us about the competition, and then also maybe the partnership opportunities that come with that, with maybe folks that have a more distributed sales network around.
Certainly. So I'm very proud to announce that last week we got our U.S. patent. So that protects us, and we're very pleased about that. We also have PCT international patents pending in 6 other countries. There are a couple of competitors. There are 2 prevalent competitors, Stryker and the Halo Bassinet. But neither one of those devices are able to be maneuvered by the mom independently. Both of those still require a second person in the room. And this really gets into not only nursing efficiency, but health equity issues in being able to, not all parents have a partner in the room, and that's a pretty sizable issue. So we are very committed to getting our product distributed widely, first nationally and then internationally. And we have considered partnering with some of the medical device distributors and have had some initial conversations with them as well, and been introduced to them. There's one in particular who does not have a bassinet product and is very interested in what we're doing. So we really see our exit in a couple of different paths. One of them would be we'll have product in a year. We can sell and manufacture and distribute. We can partner with a large distributor and sublicense or do a transaction at that point.
Yeah, medical space, all these various regulations and multitude of obstacles. What do you see your top 1, 2, biggest obstacles for you all to be successful?
So we're again racing against time, and the Joint Commission standard is creating a bit of a challenge. For instance, Johns Hopkins has just replaced all of their bassinets with Stryker. Why? Because they had a TJC review coming up, and they had to. So that's one of the challenges. We're also in the middle of our design for manufacturing process. And in that process, it may emerge that we want to make a design change that would require that we go through a 510K process and that we're no longer exempt. So we're waiting to determine if that is the case. I'm meeting with our design for manufacturing team next week to really walk through our options and opportunities, and we'll have more clarity at that point. So that would be a partial delay if we were to go down that path.
What are the unit economics on one of the bassinets?
So purchasers, by and large, are targeting a $3,500 to $4,000 per unit cost. We're working to get our cost of goods sold down to that price range. Our device has more bells and whistles, and so we're really trying to determine what our MVP is and what we can produce in that range, but still leave an opportunity for us to add additional features that solve additional problems in the hospital. So we're targeting a margin of 50%, and right now that is all looking like our projections are accurate, and we're very pleased with that.
And is there any consumable piece of the bassinet, or is it a one-time sale? And if so, either way, how frequently would hospitals need to make a new purchase?
Sure. So we're targeting that our bassinet, Couplet Care, would be on an 8 to 10 year cycle of replacement. It's a $240 million global annual market. We're anticipating a 20% replacement rate every year internationally in those countries where we have patents pending. And then we're creating some additional potential replaceable items that would also solve additional problems. But our first base model will only have the mattress as the replaceable.
Well, it's certainly hard for me to give you any advice in this space because you got this cold, you know this market, you know the space. I think with those first few customers that are using it, that are either your betas or your first, when you get your commercial product out in the market, is just trying to figure out how you can quantify with something like this the value that it has over those 2 or 3 other competitors. Say, in 6 months, here are the metrics we're going to point to, which is going to make this a no-brainer. The case study, the white paper that we put out, where you just hand it to a reasonable business person, they know what the decision is that they're going to make on what to use. And I'm sure that you're on top of that. So
that is a very astute observation, because by and large, I ran a hospital system, and by and large, hospital systems are less concerned with a slightly larger one-time cost if it can positively impact the cost of staffing and the productivity of staffing. And so really that's going to be our target, in addition to the significantly improved safety that this bassinet will offer.
great. Well, thank you, Stacy. That's great, and good luck.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy. I actually had a chance to meet Dr. Kristen Tully, her co-founder, last week. She's the host of the Maternal Health Innovation Podcast, so shameless plug there, from UNC. So check that out, Maternal Health Innovation. All right, so we've got one more founder. We've got Alex Lassiter, CEO of Green Places. Alex, if you want to come on up here. And then at the end, we're going to have time for a little bit of questions here. So in the audience watching, if you have questions, make sure you put it in the chat. And then at the end of this, if you have questions, just raise your hand, and then we can get those questions answered. All right, so we have Alex Lassiter, CEO of Green Places, which helps businesses reduce their carbon footprint. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. It's my first podcast experience, but definitely a dream of mine to speak in a microphone like this. So thanks for having me. Our business is called Green Places. I think it's helpful to kind of maybe take a step back of kind of how I got into this, and then I can tell you a little bit more about it. So this is my second company. First was a software as a service company called Gather, relatively unrelated to this business, but it was my experiences out of that kind of drove me to it. So we sold private events and catering software. We grew to 250 employees, about 15,000 restaurants across the country, and sold the business a couple years ago. After leaving that business, I think like a lot of people, you think a lot about what you want to do next. And for me, something that was really important to me personally was sustainability in the environment. I've always been big into conservation. It's always been a passion of mine. And I felt like I was afforded an opportunity to try to take the things that I thought that I was pretty good at and throw it in a direction that I thought that really mattered. And that's where I got into Green Places. The business need of what we solved was an experience that I had firsthand at Gather. And in running that business, especially towards the end, we realized that, we were under a lot of pressure to do a great job on sustainability. We had pressure from our employees. We had pressure from job seekers. We had pressure from consumers and customers. We even had pressure from the market in terms of investors, as more investors thought about impact investing and had more questions about the businesses that they were involved in. But as a business, we really struggled with it. And it wasn't out of a lack of desire, because we knew this was important. But we really didn't have the resources, both financially, or even expertise-wise, to be able to do that. So I hooked up with a local entrepreneur here, Jess Lipson, who is our largest investor, but I view him as a co-founder. He had the same sort of experience in his last company, ShareFile. And we kind of came up with this idea that, maybe businesses, across the country really have this, pent-up desire to do more from a sustainability perspective, but lack all the resources to be able to do it. So we created a business around making a turnkey solution for sustainability, where we'd be sort of think about like the all-in-one solution for sustainability for a company, and kind of designed ourselves as like a head of sustainability for tens of thousands of businesses that'll likely never hire one themselves. So that was the formation of the business. We launched in early July. So July 2nd was when our website launched. We have about 70 customers. We just hit about 400,000 in recurring revenue. And actually, Raleigh Founded is a customer of ours too. So they went carbon neutral with us just a couple weeks ago, as you may have seen. So yeah, that's our business. It's been really exciting and really enjoyable experience. And certainly from a second-time founder, it's nice to be able to kind of devote yourself to something that I feel like really makes a lot of impact.
All right, good stuff. Well, I'm going to play the jerk VC, which shouldn't be too hard to play, right? So our portfolio companies come to us and they say, listen, I got a call from this guy, Alex. He's with this company, Green Places. We want to take some of the money you invested and we want to pay him for his software solution that he has. And I'm like, this isn't in our budget and this isn't driving revenue and this isn't going to drive returns. Tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong.
Sure. So as you know, in being in this space, I like to think that I'm really important as a CEO, but in reality, at this point, the most value I'll ever add is the people that we can bring in the business and the ways in which we can motivate them to be successful. So case in point, we've got Jeremy over there, who's new head of sales. Absolutely amazing. Way, way out of our technical abilities to be able to hire somebody like that. But we were able to do it because, our business is about doing good. So we're at the intersection of doing good and doing well. And that's really important to people. I actually read an article this morning in PitchBook. So to kind of throw it back on the VC side of things, I think it's VCs, I think it said 34% of VCs resulted in losing an employee in the last 12 months, struggling with retention, trying to keep people around. And the big reason cited was, what used to work to keep people around doesn't exist anymore. Can't have a cool office because people don't really go there anymore. The office perks kind of seem superficial when everything else is going on in the world as it is. And so people want to work for a place they're really proud of. And that extends to VCs, it extends to private equity companies, extends to software companies and law firms and accounting firms. Employees today, in the last year have really experienced this dramatic, almost take a big step back and realize what they're actually doing with their time. And I think a lot of folks have reassessed and said, hey, I want to work for somebody that I'm proud for. And, for a lot of folks, they read the news and they see what's going on and they say, hey, this is a place that really matters to me. 60% of office workers under the age of 35 think about climate change on a weekly basis. I would say whether you want to believe that this is something that's important to your employees, that's up to you, but it absolutely does.
Did you have to tell me I was that wrong? Like, come on. All right, I get it. I get it.
On the way in, I was like, I should probably quit that.
You really hammered that home. All right, good.
Yeah, like you could be the jerk VC. I'll be the one that say how you took my heart with that because.
Why do you get to do that?
I know.
We talked about this before.
No, but seriously, when we started our commitment around racial equity, social justice space, right? It is about more than one singular person. It's about the impact that is, cascades around all communities that are under pressure, including creation. So, as a potential VC, if you're talking to those, I think you should, push that button. Say, this is important. It's good. And make the case for why people stick around in certain environments. I've had numbers of conversations that are similar to that about culture, values, mission. Your why seems really clear. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
You got a question? I didn't mean it like that. I was just, I'm ready. I'm ready to fire back. I'm ready to fire back.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
There's a bit of a passion point here that I'm curious about, but some of it has to do with my initial question before we went that way was, tell me how the sales cycle works. It's similar to the question we asked a previous company. How do you get in? Who do you talk to? What's your runway into that?
Sure. This is an interesting market. This is a board level issue, right? There's very few problems that you can think about in a business that are board level issues, meaning that in the board meeting every quarter, this is something that's brought up all the time. The issue though, is it's almost everybody's like fourth topic, right? If you asked a business owner and said, hey, what's the top 3 priorities, this doesn't show up. But if you ask about the one that's been on the shelf for the last 2 years, this is almost always there. So what you have is you have a situation where, executives are looking for opportunities to be able to do this, but they don't actually have anybody inside the business to own it. And so that's really where our solution comes in, as being like a turnkey solution. That's why it's got to be turnkey. It has to be easy. It can't be operational lift. It has to be a yes or no decision. So our sales cycle is actually really interesting, and it varies based on the size of client. But in general, we're approaching, the ultimate decision maker is going to be, a senior level executive, whether that's head of HR or head of marketing. A lot of times it's the CEO, managing partner, for instance, if it's a law firm. And the sales cycle, we've had deals, we're young and we're learning, but we've had deals that have closed in, a week and a half. We've had deals that have taken, a month long. But in general, there's not a whole lot of like deliberating on something like this. So usually, like a lot of things, the decision has been made. It's just getting it through the proper channels for approval to kind of open up the budget for it.
So we did have I do want everyone to know, we did have a company that we invested in and worked very closely with, that their mission was to eliminate or to help companies achieve carbon neutrality, their carbon neutrality goals. And that company ultimately didn't work out for us because of the sales process and the value creation and basically how those companies would implement and reach their goals. So I guess give us a use case of how your software is how you are going to help those companies achieve their goals from a daily basis or a monthly basis. What are they going to use your software to do?
It's a good question. So today, we view our system as very much like a turnkey solution. And part of the difference between us and that business, which I think they had a really good thought and a really good direction. But part of what we focused on at the beginning was like, where do we focus, right? The carbon credit market, which is what we're in, currently it's a $5 billion market. McKinsey says it'll be $50 billion in the next 3 years. So it's a large market. It's something that almost every business on the planet cares about, but just a little bit, and trying to figure out how to actually do it. So we have this big challenge of like, who do we focus on? And that to me is probably the biggest issue. So when we think about this, we took a look at like a chart. And if you think on one axis, you think value for being carbon neutral. So does the business have a high value for doing this? That would like sort of justify an ROI and need. And a high value would indicate that this business maybe cares a lot what people under the age of 35 think, or they sell a lot to people who are more environmentally conscious or lean more heavily on the environment side. So think like software companies, accounting firms are recruiting, 25-year-olds all the time. Law firms doing the same things. Agencies, VCs are always trying to sell to tech folks, like agencies, all that type of stuff. Then cost of being carbon neutral relative to revenue dollar. And we actually looked for people who are really low on that aspect, because if for a business to actually do this, if it's a relatively low dollar amount relative to their revenue, but it's a really high amount in terms of their ROI, it kind of enters like a no-brainer bucket. And so we're really thoughtful about who we go after and who we target to make sure that our ICP is really strong in those places. That's not to say we can't expand from there, but like anybody, when you're a startup, it's like everything is about resourcing. And we have a certain amount of time to focus, and we try to focus on the places that are the easiest wins, the fastest to close, and the easiest to support.
Great. That's great. That's awesome. So I would just say, I think it's do good, and this is going to make your business do good, do well. And sometimes those value props get mixed up in which order you put them in, but I think you're thinking about it the right way, and you're going to get the right people that are working with you through this journey. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things. We definitely have it's a for-profit business, but not at all costs. And, the view for that is to take the long run, right? Because if we think that every country that signed the Paris Climate Agreement is going to have to get to carbon neutral, that means every business in all those countries presumably is going to have to know what their footprint is and have a plan to get there. And so if there's not enough people around there to figure out how to do that, we fit really well into that. So we can make less money with more people, and there's so much runway in this market that it's like the world's biggest TAM. So we feel like
the world's biggest TAM. There you go. All right.
So from that perspective, we feel very strongly that, it's about doing the right thing for the right people and helping them have a good solution that drives high impact and playing the long game. And we think we'll win because of that.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Alex Lassiter with the world's biggest scam. Thank you.
TAM.
Oh, TAM. Oh.
I heard ham.
Make sure all our listeners at home knew.
Yeah. TAM is way better. Way better. All right, we're already over. Thank you, everybody, for attending. If there's one or two questions for the investors, Keith, you have to get out of here?
No, I just need to stand up.
Okay.
Back, sir.
Does that Does anybody have a question for Tim or for Keith? No questions at all? Okay.
Here's one. What's up?
So what you heard today, thank you. How important is it to you all to have a founder who has led a company before or a large health system or has been through a previous acquisition? And what's your advice to those first-time founders out there like myself? That competitive edge. One of the pitches talked about Stryker as their biggest competitor, right? So you got a small guy going up against the conglomerate. To impact that even more, that person is a first-time founder themselves. So, what's your outlook on the first-time founder who's trying to accomplish something great? I know team is a big part of that spread, but I'm very interested in that perspective.
So I think maybe 28 or 29 of our 31 investments we made have been into first-time founders. So that's not something we're going to shy away from anytime soon. But the key is that the founders that we invested in, at least when we invested in them, we believed they knew the help that they needed. They knew what they were good at, and they knew the help that they needed to bring in and surround themselves with. I think you heard Alex give a shout out right away to one of the people he brought in on the sales side and one of his investors who's basically a co-founder and had skill sets that they could complement each other. And so that is really important, knowing that you don't know it all. And then the thing that you do have to be as a founder is you have to be articulate. You have to be able to explain your vision and your value props, not only to your customers, but to your employees, to your investors. So as long as you can articulate the value props you have, I think that's a good base for being a founder, and then surrounding yourselves with the right people to complement your skill sets.
Yeah, I can say something. I don't know if it adds to that, but for us, our commitment to African American founders in particular, we recognize some of the headwinds that, in terms of having experience and maybe starting out and having some background starting a company, and not many of them are in that kind of category. Our company so far, most of them have been at it for a while, and they've shown that resilience. They've been able to weather through some of the challenges of getting the company at least to the point where we're early stage with revenue. So again, that's puts us in a sphere where they've been at it. They've demonstrated they have competencies. They have a team. They've been in pitch competitions and done well. That sort of. So each investor, that's important as you're starting to consider what kind of investors, where they want to get in and support founders in that early space. But that's a great question because it's about de-risking. So it is a sense of those competencies that come through success. And if you can share those success stories, however they've come, if they've not been specifically from an exit or a sale or something like that, there are other ways you can communicate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to Keith Daniel and to Tim McLaughlin for this community lunch. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, man.
All right. And on the last note here, Jess Porter from Raleigh Founded wanted to say just a couple of things to send us off here.
Thank you. I'm still jazzed about the world's biggest ham. I know I look like I ate the world's biggest ham. I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you all so much for coming. This is really a great event. Thank you to everybody that pitched and supports these teams. It's really great. And thank you guys. Thank you to Earfluence. Just wanted you to mentally mark your calendars for a couple big dates coming up. October 29th is the next Innovate Raleigh Summit. Don't know if tickets are live yet, but they will be soon, right, Jason? And that'll be at the Convention Center. And then November 5th, we're hosting a startup holiday market. So if you sell a physical product or you want to demo your physical product, reach out to any one of our staff. Anybody that has the R basically is on our team. And they can get you signed up to be a vendor there. It doesn't cost anything. We just really want to showcase some of the cool local products there. And we'd love to see you at that event. So that Eventbrite is also live. And that's it. Thank you guys again so much. And everybody have a wonderful afternoon.
Nice job, man. Hey, good to see you.